I'm Paula Gibson and I am a personal assistant. I've been a personal assistant for almost five or 6 years now. But before that, I was an actress. So I spent 5 years working as an actress in London. And before that, I was at drama school. And before that, I was at Manchester University studying drama.
Wow. So, what took you from acting into the world of being a personal assistant? Because that's
Well,
a big change.
yeah, it's a really big change. I just wanted to do something where I could use my skills of being confident, having good communication, presentation skills. I wanted something that was corporate, but where I felt like I could also have some autonomy.
Mm.
Because being an actress, you are effectively, I think, an entrepreneur. You are selling, yourself as a business, going out meeting with casting directors all the time or directors, and you're sort of sharing with them your expertise in acting. And I suppose I just wanted something that, yeah, could be a similar role in some regards, which is, for me at least, with being a personal assistant, you in a way effectively are your own boss. Yes, you've got your boss who's sort of giving you tasks to do, but you're just having to sort of get on with it yourself and be self-motivated to
Mm.
get it all done too. So I can
Absolutely.
see similarities in that respect.
Mm. And for anybody that doesn't know, can you just give us a brief idea of what JLT do as a business? So there might be people that are watching that have never heard of the company before.
So we are a global insurance broker. We have almost 12,000 people worldwide in all the different offices. Within JLT, we specialise in a lot of different insurance. So we have insurance for perhaps construction, aerospace, credit, political and security risk. We cover a whole range of insurances for business and yeah.
And you have offices all over the world.
We have offices all over the world, some of them specialising in perhaps the credit, political and security risk insurance. But yeah, we're a big global company and quite exciting because we've grown so quickly.
Mm. And you specifically, who do you work with and in what department?
So I support the group treasurer and he's within the treasury team.
Mm. That's interesting. I used to work for a CFO of an insurance company. I did that twice. So I've got a good understanding of what your day to day must look like.
Yeah, I'm
Busy, busy,
sure.
busy.
Yeah,
It's
definitely.
amazing how much the treasurer and the CFO, how much authority they have within an insurance business. I know generally those types of people do, but I think in insurance businesses, they are just the go-to person for everything. Quick business decisions that need to be made, they need to be there to sign anything off. It's a pressurized role.
Yeah, it is. And also, at any moment he can have people throughout the business reaching out to him to sign something off to ensure that money's transferred somewhere. Even today he's been asked to sort of bring in his passport and a bank statement to give proof of signing something else off. And yeah, it's just it is quite a pressurized role, especially like supporting and reporting into our group FD.
So let's have a kind of overview of what your typical day looks like. So can you just kind of go through with us the main aspects of your role?
Yeah, so I support my group treasurer, of course. So in his day to day, supporting him with all his travel, his itineraries, his calendar, and then I also work with our head of investor relations, and we work to manage our relationship with the charity Red R. So I do a lot of work with him. Mostly events actually, which is really exciting. So we've had HRH Princess Anne in the office, so I had to help organise that. We've had lots of little networking events. We've had workshops. So it's really fun organising those events with the charity, and having a nice point of contact over there and getting to know them has been great. And then also I run the PA network for JLT. So I've been organising lots of developmental sessions, networking dinners, got one tonight actually. So I'm taking 10 PAs over to a restaurant called An Echo in one Aldwych hotel.
Oh, love, I've been there. That's lovely.
Have you?
Yeah,
Okay,
you'll have a lovely night. It's very nice.
yeah,
Mm.
we're all looking forward to it. And I sat down yesterday with this external trainer because I'm organising a big 3-hour session for all the PAs on assertive communication. So that's happening in 2 weeks' time. So yeah, it's really nice. My role is so varied. It wasn't actually that way to begin with, but I've made it really varied, and I've taken on a lot more responsibility. So it's been great for me.
So I want to follow up on the network. You just mentioned there briefly that you've made the role your own, and I know that's something that we talk a lot about on Practically Perfect PA. So before we move on, I just want to talk about that. So how did you make it your own? What skills or parts of your personality do you have that has made you be proactive and take on work that maybe wasn't there initially?
Yeah, well, as I was saying earlier about, being an actress originally and being quite entrepreneurial, I actively looked for ways that I could make my role my own. And one sort of gap in the market, as it were, that I saw at JLT was that there was no network for the PAs. The PAs were very disconnected and weren't really communicating with each other. Most of them actually would speak to people on the phone every day. They might sit 2 floors apart and had never actually met. So I sort of couldn't believe that in a way. Obviously, there was some PAs that were really active and would sort of take other PAs out for lunch and make the effort, but a lot of PAs they sort of didn't get to meet each other. So that was one motivation for setting up the PA network. But also, I saw that there wasn't much in terms of professional development tailored for PAs, and I really wanted to change that as well.
Mm.
So, yeah, there was that. And then, I kind of also threw myself into the sort of charity side of things. And whenever there was an event to organise, I would put my hand up straight away. And so, in terms of that, I've definitely expanded on my role looking after that charity relationship.
So let's go back to kind of what your typical day like. What's your morning routine before you get into the office?
That's a really good question because I am really trying to change my morning routine at the moment. I'm one of the few and lucky Londoners that lives really close to the office. So there's a real temptation just to kind of like roll out of bed, have a shower, stick some makeup on and head off to work. Um, but I'm trying every morning to get up. Like this morning, I got up at 6. I went for a run slash power walk, bought a coffee, came back. I always try and put some like either really motivational music on, or like yesterday I was listening to Wayne Dyer. And I'm really trying to make use of my mornings in a sort of more positive way. I know that it works for a number of people, and I'm trying to sort of get a taste of that. But yeah, so I'm in the process of having hopefully a really nice
Is it a work in
routine.
progress? Yeah, I always think it also
Yeah.
depends on what you've done the night before, how productive your mornings are. Yeah, 6 a.m. is not a start
Yeah.
for everybody when you've had a late night the night before.
Right. Well, that's it. I'm trying to actually go to bed earlier as well. If I'm not out, I'm trying to just go to bed as early as possible, really, so that I know that I can't tell myself in the morning
Yeah,
it's a lack of
yeah,
sleep. That's my excuse for
yeah,
sleeping in.
absolutely. So what time, if you've had the perfect morning and you've done your yoga and you've gone for a run and you get ready, what time do you get into this and how does your day start once you're actually in the office?
So I get in the office for 9, and I just, the first thing I do is, double check the calendar, make sure that my boss has got everything that he needs for the day ahead, and then respond to emails. I obviously check, what status my next event is at for my PA network, check if anything needs to be done for the charity side of things. At the moment, I'm helping to organise our finance conference. So there's a lot of work to be done for that. I'm just helping write the agenda at the moment, putting in train times, finding maps, all sorts of things, making sure everyone's come back to me with their menu options. So it's quite varied, but in a really good, positive way. I love, that's my favourite kind of day.
And what is your boss normally in before you, or does he come in afterwards? Do you have any bit of a buffer time before he arrives, or are you just straight into work?
I think actually we usually arrive at similar times, so that's quite nice. He's also someone that wants to catch up on his emails, and anything that he needs doing for our group FD, he'll do that in the morning, and then we always have a 9:30 catch up, so anything that we need to run through in more detail, we can sit down and properly do that, which I really like. I actually put that in when I started working for him, because I didn't want a relationship where every time he wanted something done, he'd just sort of run out of the office and kind of interrupt my flow, as it were. I thought, you know what, let's be organised about this. Let's have 30 minutes a day to just, cover off everything. I can go away and sort of, get things done, and he can feel content and trust that I will get on with it.
I'm a huge advocate of PAs having that touch point with their bosses once a day. I really struggle to think of PAs that don't have that, because it's so important, and actually it just sets you up for the day. I used to have them in the morning as well. It just gave me a really clear idea of where my day was going and also where their day was going. It makes a huge difference. I think it's a huge thing that PAs should all have that, and don't ever let it leave the diary.
No, well, that's it. I mean, I get quite sad when I hear about my colleagues, lots of them put something in the diary, but it just gets pushed back, pushed back, pushed back until it drops off. And then they can go a good 2 weeks without having any catch up with their boss. And, it becomes really frustrating. And I think it's actually very negative for the relationship between a PA and their boss, because if you haven't had a sit down and gone through everything and had a proper catch up, and it's just been emails sort of flung across, then I think, it can just be a bit annoying, because, you both kind of don't really know where you stand on certain things, and it just gets...
Yeah, I absolutely agree. It's so necessary. What does the rest of your day look like? Is it a very fast-paced environment that you work in, or is it a bit more? Do you have a bit more of a routine? Do you know what your day will look like most days? I know you said you like a variety. So what? Talk us through what an average day looks like for you.
So I think it just depends on what's happening. So if it's an event that is obviously got a strict deadline, because that event is going to happen, then it's about me sort of pulling out the stops, and getting it done, getting it organised. And then if it's booking some flights, it's quite nice because we've got a really reliable travel agent that we work with to book flights. So I just sort of send them off what I'm looking for, and they come back with options. So a lot of it is really ongoing, and sort of like project or event based. So it really just depends on kind of the deadline.
Brilliant. Myself. And what time do you normally finish up on an average day? What time are you heading out the office?
I would say it's usually 5 or 5:30. it depends again what's going on in the office. Like I've stayed till 8:39 before, but that's because there was something happening and I needed to be there. So, but yeah, I try and leave around 5:30 because I think it's really important to have a good work-life balance. And I want to sort of get home and like
Yeah,
have an
it's so nice
yeah.
to hear you say that, because I know, so you work for a big insurance company in the city. It's quite often you hear people say, no, I stay really late, or I'm in really early, but you don't need to. If you have a good work day, it's nice to be able to get out and not be caught up in that culture of just working really crazy hours.
Yeah, I think it does depend on your boss though as well. Sometimes, your boss might say, "Look, I'm going to have to stay late tonight. Tonight, are you all right to just stay with me in case I need anything?" So, my boss is very much someone that appreciates work-life balance too, and I think he likes to get home to his family. So, it's not often that he'll stay late. We both have access to our emails at home. We've both got set up. So if we needed to log in from home, we can, which I've done many times before. But I think it's important to sort of like be at home and sort of be with your family or, see
Brilliant.
friends.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about your blog? We've actually got a blog post coming up from you that's coming out next week, which is all about city restaurants. But you tell us, Paula, a little bit more about your side hustle, as they say.
Yeah. So I set up my blog about 8 months ago. It's called cityintrigue.com, and I love to go out to nice restaurants. As PAs, we're always looking for inspiration and ideas of where to send our colleagues or our boss. So I thought, well, actually, between the PA network, we were sort of sharing a bit of a spreadsheet on some of these restaurants that we really liked and trusted. But I thought I would sort of go one step further and start actually reviewing restaurants that I'd been to and sort of sharing, more detailed information. So yeah, I visit restaurants and hotels and I write quite a thorough, detailed review of my experience at them. And then I put that on my blog. I share it on my social media platforms. I share it with my PA networks. So it's very
What's your boss
exciting.
and your organisation said about you doing the blog? They must find it really helpful that you can just give a restaurant sort of review or recommendation just with the click of a finger.
Yeah, I think I've always had people coming to me asking for recommendations, even when they've got friends that are coming from Europe or America. They said, Paula, can you just send me sort of 10 top restaurants and, we'll go and visit them. And yeah, my boss really enjoys the fact that I know a lot of places to go and always have good recommendations. Often he takes his wife as well. So yeah, I think they find it really really
Brilliant.
positive
Let's
and
go
really
back
useful.
to the day job. Let's start with something positive. What's your favourite part of the job?
Organising events, I have to say, that's definitely my forte. I love sort of going out, looking for venues or, looking back on venues that I've been to before and deciding on which one to pick. And then everything about it from sort of choosing the menus to deciding, how the event will look, writing the itinerary.
Yeah, and it
I
sounds like
really,
something
really
that you
enjoy
do
that.
quite a lot. Do you get other parts of the business asking for your input into the events that they do?
Last year we were doing a Christmas party for 450 people and they invited me to the menu tasting and everything. So that was really nice. And I worked sort of a little bit with the events team to decide on, how the event would look and obviously the food and the drinks, which was great fun. So yeah, occasionally I get
That's
asked
really.
for
So,
it.
what would you say to date has been your career highlight?
I would say it's probably setting up the PA network actually, because it's been an incredible year of, meeting lots of my fellow personal assistants building the network, getting people involved, being asked to speak at events like the Future Assistant and the Office Show. And I've just been asked to sort of host a morning breakfast for 20 PAs, and we're going to do sort of like a big Q&A. So I'm really looking forward to that. So that's been very nice. It's just like kind of having a bit of external recognition.
Do you want to, because it's a really interesting story why you started the network, and you, I know you talked about it at the Future Assistant event that we did. Could you just tell us again if people watching haven't heard the story, because I think it's incredibly motivating. Something good come out of a bad situation. So why don't you tell us what happened?
Yeah, I was sitting at my desk one day and I noticed that HR were approaching everyone in my team, asking them sort of if they wanted to do any exams or if they needed any support in terms of training and development. And they didn't come to me or to my desk and didn't approach me. And I felt really upset and quite angry about that. So I actually, on my next catch up with my boss, I went in and my blood was boiling at this stage. And I said to him, I've just seen that HR approached everyone about training, development, exams that they want to take, but I was overlooked and no one came and spoke to me. And he said, well, perhaps that's because they don't really know how to train PAs or what to offer you. And I said, well, that's ridiculous. PAs need training and development just as much as anyone else. And I said, well, you know what? That's going to change. I'm not quite sure yet how that's going to change, but that's going to change. And that's when I decided to launch.
That's amazing.
The PA network.
Just that kind of determination that things were going to change and this wasn't right. There would be a lot of people that would just go back to their desk, moan to somebody else, complain, and then not do anything about it. So it's an amazing part of your personality that just made you think, no, this isn't right, because it wasn't right. So what were the next steps for anybody that is interested in setting up a network for exactly the same reasons? What were the next steps that you took?
Yeah, I have to say it was quite hard, because I was honestly like, oh my goodness, where do I even begin? Where do I start with this? Luckily, I built up a really good relationship with a lady that works now in the talent and development team. And I sort of suggested the idea to her and she thought it was absolutely brilliant. So straight away, I at least had one other person on board with what I was about to do. I then reached out to one of the EAs that looks after our JLT specialty CEO, and she was also incredibly supportive. And sort of straight away, really, she offered to email her boss and explain the situation. So within a matter of days, I had this very senior talent and development person on board. I had our specialty CEO on board, and then it sort of grew and grew from there. And then I looked at getting someone external to come in and deliver a presentation. So I made it into a real event, and I invited obviously every PA, every EA, every team assistant, and the support just grew and grew, really. And I made sure that our photographer was there. So we've got an in-house photographer. So she came along, she took some photos, I wrote a story, publicised it all on the intranet. And then from then on, I kept getting emails saying, can I join the network? I saw your launch, can I join the network? And yeah, so that's how it all started, really. So my advice would be just get in touch with influential people and allow them to help you. And I would definitely recommend a launch event, because that's really exciting. When you launch something new, everyone's really intrigued about what it's going to be like. What does this mean for me as a PA? Finally, there's a network that I can join. How exciting. So
fantastic. Yeah, and has JLT embraced it? Have you had much kickback, or has it generally been quite a positive experience so far?
Yeah, I think it's generally been a really positive experience. I think that with my most recent event that's coming up, I've also had the support of our group FD and again my specialty CEO and some of the team in HR as well have been really supportive to
Oh,
the point where
fantastic.
I've now got a budget of over
That's
£2,000 to cover this
fantastic.
event,
Well done.
which is amazing.
Yeah, yeah, because that's where the
Yeah,
kind of
it's really exciting.
that's when you know that they're supportive, when there is money being given actually for training and for events and for networking. So that's fantastic. Well done. What advice would you give to other assistants that are looking just to kind of extend their role, or just be more out there, take on more work? What advice would you give them?
I would say just be
Yeah.
fearless, which I know is like easier said than done. But um, the quote on my desktop is something like
Mm.
nothing good came from comfort zones, because I like to remind myself to step out of my comfort zone as much as possible. And I think that's really important, especially when you're a PA and there are instances where you can be overlooked. Don't
Mm.
allow that, because why should you? I also last year joined a female founders network
Oh, that's
called
fantastic.
League of Her Own,
Yeah.
which is so, yeah, which is so important to me, because every single week people are sharing their wins. So they're sort of saying, oh, I achieved this week, and this is happening for me. And even like things like one of our founders, actually, she did like an Ironman in Marbella. So she was sort of like posting pictures all about that, showing off her medal, which is really exciting. So it's like personal and professional wins, and that just gives me so much motivation. So I would recommend, if you are ambitious and maybe a bit entrepreneurial, joining a group of like-minded women or men. So that would be, yeah, I think a recommendation for you.
Okay, our time is kind of coming to an end. I know that you've got to head back to the office. So I just want to wrap up and ask you if there's anything more that you have thought about over your career that has happened to you, or any advice that you've been given that you can give to other assistants. Is there anything that you can just, that's kind of one bit of motivation that you can give to somebody listening today? What would it be?
Um, I'm not sure how motivational this is, but I think one piece of really important advice that I would give is that just make sure when you're being interviewed for a PA position, you are interviewing them just as much as they are interviewing you. It's so, so important. And I would always recommend meeting with that person at least twice, if not three times, just to make sure that you've got the right chemistry, that you will get on with this person, because it's a very intense relationship being someone's personal assistant. So I would just always recommend that. Make sure you know sort of what you're getting yourself into, as it were, and that you will enjoy working for them, because that is
Yeah,
so, so
absolutely. That's
important.
fantastic advice. There's nothing worse than working with somebody as a assistant who you don't click with, because it's such an intense relationship. No, that's fantastic advice.